Good morning, 8th grade. I have some special news to announce this morning. One of your classmates won an award in the Lit Up competition at the Mid-Continent Public Library. Miss Olivia won third place in the fiction writing. So I want everybody, if you have time today, to give her a big shout out. Her email, if you don't have it, is just like yours, olivia.casper@fcaclassical.com. So give her a big congratulations today if you have time, and help her feel really good about winning this prize. Okay, today we are reading the last of Act 3, and then we will jump into Act 4. I haven't decided if we're going to do maybe some summary work tomorrow or dive on into Act 4. I'll let you know later today or first thing tomorrow morning, so be watching your Google Classroom for that. Okay, we have several lords of France, the Constable, Lord Rambouillet, Orleans, and the Dauphin are the ones who are going to be talking. There's one more character who will, just a messenger who will come by, but those are the main characters in Scene 7. We are on page 121. You should be reading along and taking notes if you like, at least paying very good attention. And that today's quiz might be a little bit harder, so you want to listen very carefully. Okay, start with the Constable. Tut! I have the best armor of the world. Would it were day. Orleans says, You have an excellent armor, but let my horse have his due. So your armor's nice, but my horse is better. Constable says, It is the best horse of Europe. Orleans says, Will it never be morning? They're very excited about battle the next day, so they are impatient for the morning to come, for the night to be over and morning to come. My lord of Orleans, and my lord high constable, you talk of horse and armor. Orleans says to the Dauphin, You are as well provided of both as any prince in the world, so your armor and horse are just as good as any of the rest of ours. The Dauphin says, What a long night this is! I will not change my horse with any that treads but on 4 pasterns. Ha! He bounds from the earth as if his entrails were hairs. Le cheval volant, the Pegasus, qui est le Néron de feu, he's on fire. When I bestride him, I soar, I am a hawk, he trots the air. The earth sings when he touches it, the basest torn of his hoof is more musical than the piper of Hermes. So he's comparing his horse to the gods. He thinks very highly of this horse, apparently. Orleans says, he's the color of nutmeg. So nutmeg is brown, so nothing special, but also nutmeg is a kitchen spice, so that would be kind of saying that it's a girl's horse in a way. So he's definitely putting him down just a little bit here. Dauphin says, and of the heat of the ginger. So this is playing on the color red, ginger, but also ginger is a very spicy spice. Funny, spicy spice. And so he's saying he's got a fire inside of him, or he's very spicy. It is a beast for Perseus, so worthy of a demigod. He is pure air and fire, and the dull elements of earth and water never appear in him, but only in patient stillness while his rider mounts, only because he's calm while I'm getting on him. He is indeed a horse, and all other jades or lower beasts you may call beasts. The constable says, Indeed, my lord, it is a most absolute and excellent horse. The Dauphin says, It's the Prince of Palfreys. His neigh is like the bidding of a monarch, and his countenance enforces homage. No more, cousin. Orleans says, This is getting ridiculous. Nay, says the Dauphin, the man hath no wit that cannot, from the rising of the lark to the lodging of the lamb, very deserved praise on my palfrey. It is a theme as fluent as the sea. Turn the sands into eloquent tongues, and my horse is an argument for them all. 'Tis a subject for a sovereign to reason on, and for a sovereign to ride on. So here's a beautiful example of parallelism, which we've talked about before. So, and it's a combination of parallelism and alliteration, which is always a really good thing, but we know that Shakespeare is one of the best. So subject for a sovereign to reason on, and for a sovereign to ride on. So very beautiful literary tool there. Okay. And for the world familiar to us and unknown to lay apart their particular functions and wonder at him. I once writ a sonnet in his praise and began thus, Wonder of nature. So normally people write sonnets about love, And so they usually write them about whoever they are in love with. And that would be very strange for the Dauphin to be writing a sonnet about his horse. And so he's going to get no small criticism for this. Also, a palfrey is a horse for a woman. It's a more gentle horse. So it would be humorous to the audience right now for the Dauphin to be praising his horse for being such an amazing horse and then calling it a female horse. So not a female horse, but a horse for a female. All right. Orleans says, I have heard a sonnet begin so as to one's mistress. Dauphin says, then did they imitate that which I composed to my courser. Now here he calls his horse a battle horse. A battle horse was a courser, so he's stepping up his game a little bit. For my horse is my mistress. Your mistress bears well, me well, which is the prescript praise and perfection of a good and particular mistress. So prescript praise and perfection, all good things. Nay, for methought yesterday your mistress shrewdly shook your back. So perhaps did yours. Mine was not bridled. Oh, then belike she was old and gentle, and you rode like a kern of Ireland, your French hose off and in your straight trousers. So you rode very poorly, like a poor man, not like a trained horseman. You have good judgment in horsemanship, says the constable. Be warned by me, then. They that ride so and ride not warily fall into foul bogs. I had rather have my horse to my mistress. So the constable is now beginning to show to the Dauphin, which he probably has before. They have no great love for each other. They're constantly on the opposite side of an argument. But the constable is saying, oh, you have wonderful giftings in horsemanship, which is to say that he's not that great of a leader or fighter. The constable says, I'd rather have my mistress a jade. Dauphin says, I tell thee, constable, my mistress wears his own hair. I could make as true a boast as that if I had a sow to my mistress. And then the Dauphin quotes scripture here. He says, I'm not going to read it in French. He says, basically, if you look on the left side, the dog is turned to his own vomit again, and the sow that was washed is turned again to her wallowing in the mire. And so he is talking about how when we have bad habits, that verse talks about when we have bad habits, we have a hard time leaving them. And he is talking about the constable who is constantly making bad choices, in his opinion, by disagreeing with him. The constable says, yet do I not use my horse for my mistress, or any such proverb so little kin to the purpose. So he's saying, at least I use things properly, and I don't quote proverbs that don't have anything to do with what we're talking about. Rambouillet says, my lord constable, the armor that I saw in your tent tonight, are those stars or suns upon it? So he's talking about the decoration on the constable's armor. Stars, my lord. Some of them will fall tomorrow, I hope. And yet my sky shall not want, he says to the Dauphin. So the Dauphin says, I think that you're going to be knocked down a little bit. You're not going to be quite so braggadocious or think that you're so amazing after tomorrow. And the constable says, I might get knocked down, but it won't hurt me. I'll still be just as good. The Dauphin says, that may be, for you bear many superfluously, and 'twere more honor some were away. So it would be better if you didn't have so many stars on your armor. The constable says, even as your horse bears your praises, who would trot just as well were some of your brags dismounted. So your horse would be just the same whether you bragged on him or not. The Dauphin says, would I were able to load him with his dessert. Will it never be day? I will trot tomorrow a mile, and my way shall be paved with English faces. So the Dauphin is starting to brag about how he's going to defeat the British tomorrow. The constable says, I will not say so, for fear I should be faced out of my way. But I would it were morning, for I would fain be about the ears of the English. So I'm not going to brag, because I don't want to end up bragging falsely and getting defeated tomorrow. Rambouillet says, who will go to hazard with me for 20 prisoners? So who's going to bet that I end up with 20 prisoners? The constable says, you must first go yourself to hazard before you have them, ere you have them. So he says, you have to go into danger first. You can't get prisoners without going into danger. So he's basically calling Rambouillet perhaps not as brave as he should be. The Dauphin says, 'tis midnight, I'll go arm myself. And then he leaves. The Dauphin longs for morning, says Orleans. He longs to eat the English, says Rambouillet. I think he will eat all he kills, which he's saying he's not going to kill anybody because he's not going to have anything to eat. By the white hand of my lady, he's a gallant prince. The constable says, you'd rather swear by her foot that she may tread out the oath. He is simply the most active gentleman in France. So he's the most popular gentleman in France. And the constable says, doing is activity, and he will still be doing. So he's still just going to be doing random activities, nothing that's meaningful. Orleans says, he never did harm that I heard of. And the constable says, nor will he do any tomorrow. So yes, you're right. He's never done any harm, and he's not going to do any harm tomorrow in the battle, which is a bad thing. They need him to do harm. He will keep that good name still. I know him to be valiant. The constable says, I was told that by one that knows him better than you. Who's he? Marry, he told me himself. He told Constable that he was valiant, and he said he cared not who knew it. He needs not. It's no hidden virtue in him. Constable says, by my faith, sir, but it is. Never anybody saw it but his servant or his lackey. 'Tis a hooded valor, and when it appears, it will die. So he's saying that nobody's ever seen the Dauphin be brave, except for the servant that he beats, which is a bad characteristic out of a leader, right? And he says that it's hooded valor. So this is hearkening to hawking. At the time, they would keep the hawks with a hood over their head. And sometimes when they took the hood off, the hawk would hunt. But sometimes when they took the hood off, the hawk would do nothing. And the constable is thinking that that's going to be the problem for the Dauphin. So now they break into a battle of quotes or proverbs for each other. So this is an important information for your quiz today. You want to pay attention. Orleans says, ill will never said well. So people who have bad intentions don't ever say anything nice about anybody. The constable says, I will cap that proverb with, there's flattery in friendship. So he's saying, you just tell the Dauphin what he wants to hear because you're his friend. And I will take up that with, give the devil his due. So he's like, even if you don't like the Dauphin, you should at least give him, what he's due. And then the constable says, ha, well placed. There stands your friend, the devil. So now you've called your own friend, the Dauphin, the devil. Have it the very eye of that proverb with a pox of the devil. So a curse on the devil. And Orleans says, you are the better at proverbs, but how much? A fool's bolt is soon shot. So you've shot out your best battle or your best proverb now, and it's all over. And the constable says, you've shot over. And Orleans says, 'tis not the first time you were overshot. So he says, it's not the first time you've been defeated. And in comes a messenger. My lord high constable, the English lie within 1,500 paces of your tents. Who hath measured the ground? The Lord Grand Pré. A valiant and most expert gentleman. Would it were day. Alas, poor Harry of England, he longs not for the dawning as we do. They think Harry is afraid on the other side. What a wretched and peevish fellow is the King of England to mope with his fat-brained followers so far out of his knowledge. Fat-brained followers so far. If the English had any apprehension, they would run away. So if they knew how amazing we are and how many of us there were, they would run away. That they lack. So their heads had that would be, if their heads had any intellectual armor, they would run away. But if they did, then they could never wear such heavy headpieces. That island of England breeds very valiant creatures. Their mastiffs are unmatchable courage, so their dogs are really good. They're saying their dogs are more brave than the British. Foolish curs, bad dogs, that run winking into the mouth of a Russian bear and have their heads crushed like rotten apples. You may as well say that's a valiant flea that dare eat his breakfast on the lip of a lion, so they're nothing brave. Sitting here across from the French who are going to soundly defeat them. Or they think so anyway. The constable says, just. And the men do sympathize with the mastiffs in robustness and rough coming on, leaving their wits with their wives, and then give them great meals of beef and iron and steel. They will eat like wolves and fight like devils. Aye, but these English are shrewdly out of beef. Then shall we find tomorrow that they have only stomachs to eat and none to fight. Now is it time to arm. Come, shall we be about it? It is now 2:00, says Orleans, but let me see. By 10 we shall each have 100 Englishmen, so we shall have captured or killed at least 100 Englishmen. Another important point to note. So they're very braggadocious. They think that the battle is already theirs, and that if the British were smart, they would be fearful and run away. So I want you to put in your notes today for your extra credit. Do you think that the French will win tomorrow or the British? All right. I hope you have a wonderful day. And don't forget to give a shout out to Miss Olivia. Take care. I'll see you guys later. Bye.